So I don't have much time, but I wanted to tell you this quick story of something that actually happened recently, but since I'm old, then I might misremember or exaggerate part of it. So, walking down the street, minding my own business, singing a groovy tune at the top of my lungs. Everyone around me is really digging it. And I get so lost in the righteous boogie of whatever number I was singing that I managed to wander into traffic without even noticing. So, some well to do officer of the law runs into traffic and grabs me. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, I was just really enjoying whatever tune I was belting out." And he was like, "Yeah, but you can't run into traffic, so I'm going to have to write you up and arrest you and throw you in the slammer for some inordinate amount of time." I was like, "Oh, no, come on, officer. Isn't there something we can work out? I am a Pokemon master, after all." And he was like, "Pokemon master, huh? So, okay, I'll let you go if you can tell me one thing. When has Ghost type Curse ever been used in competitive Pokemon?" And suddenly, I was no longer in the streets of Prague. I was instead transported back in time, and I landed in the year 2009. This is a year in which Imperfect Luck, one of the greatest, most dominant players of all time, used Ghost type Curse to competitive success. Like, it's not a novel idea. It's been thrown around. Like, oh, what if Gengar in Advance used Ghost Curse for one thing or another? And then you realize it learns Parrish Song. So you don't really want to use it to do that. But basically, some players have been looking for ways to use Ghost Curse, and they never really. This one use is still niche, which is why it's the only time it's ever been used. But IPL, the master, found a way to not just incorporate it, but achieve incredible success with it, proving it wasn't just a gimmick. I mean, maybe it was, and maybe only IPL could pull it off. I mean, he's the only one who did pull it off. So it speaks more to IPL's creativity and talent as a player, but it still worked, and that's the one instance of Ghost type Curse that's ever actually worked. So IPL and DPP was known for his stall teams, and Fried Ice Cream, as he dubbed this one, was one of many. And we look at the team, we have Blissey, Swampert, Fortress, which would love to fit Explosion. That's important, but it can't. It's already got more moves than it can fit. Then he's got Spiritomb. What's that doing there? And then we'll come back to that. Then there's a Rotom Heat, and then a Restog Gyarados. So Fortress and Restog Gyarados, this was the style of stall at the time. I mean, it went back and forth. Oh, am I going to run Skarmory? Am I going to run Fortress? If I run Fortress, I can run Restog Gyarados. Stuff like that. The point of interest on this team is the Spiritomb. So Spiritomb was a spin blocker in Diamond and Pearl, but then Platinum came around, and so did the Rotom forms, which were perfect because they were immune to spikes. So lots of longevity, it's hard, and they have great bulk, and they're actual offensive threats too, or at least more than Spiritomb and Dusknoir. So they can actually respond to the opponent effectively. And Spiritomb was out of a job in OU. So it's not that it became completely unviable. It saw use here and there because it's one of the few things that actually fully counters Machamp, but that's not why it's used here. The thing that you might be thinking at first is that, oh, well, IPL is using Double Ghost, just like was used in UU, where Spiritomb is an excellent Pokemon, and he just really wanted to deny Rapid Spin. And that's very important because these stall teams live and die by their hazards. And that is certainly one of the benefits of Spiritomb. But the main thing Spiritomb does on this team is use Ghost-type Curse. And why do you use Ghost-type Curse in particular? Well, stall teams of this ilk really struggled with last Pokemon setup sweepers. So what does that mean? We have an example replay. Most of the time when there's a sweeper like a Calm Mind Jirachi or a Suicune or something, then a stall team can just go to a Pokemon with Roar or a Whirlwind and just phase them out, right? And that doesn't solve the issue necessarily, but it delays it enough to where the Pokemon will be weakened and not able to complete the sweep later on. So phasing is commonly a way to deal with such Pokemon. Well, and once they're the last Pokemon, so to speak, and you can't phase them anymore, because if there's only one Pokemon, then you're not going to roar them out to anything, so it fails. So what do you do in that case? Well, if it's something like an offensive Calm Mind Jirachi, then yeah, it's not really a problem, because you just go to your Blissey and you Seismic Toss it a bunch, and there you go. It goes down. The problem is when these last Pokemon setup sweepers have a recovery move. So you can delay them a lot, and you can try and force yourself into a position where they are forced to heal when they're the last Pokemon, and that gives you a small window of opportunity to KO them, but that's really unreliable. And you pretty much have to not only really position yourself perfectly, but you still have to get lucky, and we'll see that once we start the replay. So the most classic two examples of this come from Advance as well, where there's a similar issue the stall teams have, and they're in the form of Calm Mind Rest Suicune and Curse Rest Snorlax. Regular Curse, the curse that's been prominent throughout competitive Pokemon since Gen 2, not the Ghost-type curse. And then there are other examples, like Wish Calm Mind Jirachi is a big one. In DPP, IPL was often counter-teamed by people gunning for his stall team with Nasty Plot Roost Togekiss, with Heal Bell too. So sometimes on his stall teams he would slot in Zapdos in the Spiritomb slot. But those are just examples of, okay, once it's the last Pokemon, it can't be phased, it heals, it boosts, and it's eventually going to overwhelm me, because these stall teams are not offensively potent, so when these bulky setup sweepers can heal off the minuscule bits of chip damage you throw at them, then you don't really have anything else you can do. And yeah, this is why, like in Diamond and Pearl, Obi's old stall team had Perish Song Celebi for exactly this. But that's a really difficult Pokemon to fit on a team. Not much else gets Perish Song, let alone viable Pokemon. So here's a practical example of what would happen if there's a last Pokemon setup sweeper. So there we have the Suicune, and it's the only Pokemon, but let's make it a little more realistic, right? So we make it burn some PP, so it's going to rest and sleep talk a few times, and we're really giving it the benefit of the doubt here, because we're going to make it burn some PP already, and then we're going to force it to rest. So we'll assume that the stall team is not only fully healthy, but also is going to be able to pivot in Rotom at the perfect time. And the thing is that we can't go all the way, because if Suicune just rests and doesn't have the Calm Mind, then yeah, likely Rotom can beat it. That said, if Suicune rolls the Sleep Talk, Calm Mind, then you're still, so all it needs is that 33% chance, and then the subsequent not getting crit, obviously. But all it needs is that, and then you're toast. So even in the best case scenario, you have a seriously decent chance of losing the game. But that's usually not going to be the case. You're usually not going to be in the best case scenario. So we give Suicune a Calm Mind at low health here as Rotom switches in. And now your move with the other, we're using a classic form of stall used by guys like Earthworm and Goki and Goofball and Taylor and Loki and Mop and KG. So yeah, in this style of team, at this point, as you can see here, it can pretty much just hope to crit. Also, the fun fact about trying to do this to Suicune in particular is that Suicune has pressure, and therefore your attack BP is not that plentiful, so your crit chances with Rotom are really limited. 1 in 12, that's not horrible odds. Again, this is assuming you've used no Thunderbolt PP beforehand throughout the entire game, by the way, and that your Rotom's in perfect condition. And yeah, you can play as well as you can, but this is still assuming really good stuff. Because like if a Hippowdon Earthquake crits, then oh yeah, and there's the Sleep Talk, as I've been saying, and it's, who cares? T-Tar has a very limited window in which to crit. I mean, again, T-Tar in perfect condition and everything, and just to follow up the Rotom here, that is if there is even a Scarftar version, like Earthworm's stall variant with specially defensive Heatran would be complete toast. So yeah, as you see here, then we're just gonna skip ahead because the point is made. And Blissey, of course, yeah, Suicune doesn't have infinite PV. Oh, it got the defense drop on the last turn, and limited window again, and yeah, it was at perfect health, so it lived a +2 Surf. But you get the point. So Blissey comes in, and it's just going to get stalled, and yeah, even if Suicune runs out of Sleep Talks, then, hope you get lucky with Hippowdon EQ crits. Oh, it's already burned PP. And then the Rest Hawk Gyarados is going to do nothing. Neither is the Fortress. So, yeah, you get the idea. So, how does IPL stop this? Well, let's look at what happens if you use Ghost Curse, especially on something with a lot of special defense investment like the Spiritomb has. Calm Spiritomb with Max Def can, from full health, obviously you have to be careful without it, but just to give an example, it can take a +2 Surf at full health and still pull Curse off. And most of the time, you're not going to be giving the Suicune 2 free Calm Minds, just the one, and the one just bounces off. But, just to show it off. So we're going to give Suicune a free Calm Mind. Blissey's going to get rocks. And yeah, then Spiritomb will come in, and the super boosted hit's going to bounce off. And there goes Ghost Curse. So now we just switch back to Blissey, and Curse is too much to handle. You think 25%, oh, it's going to rest, but I mean, that 25% is a lot. Even if there's no Sandstorm, like in this case, then it's more than enough. Because as you see, Blissey comes in here, starts chipping away with Seismic Toss. Suicune can't live through even one round of it. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, that's when Curse was used in competitive Pokemon. If you're wondering, well, why aren't there replays from that period? Well, that's because way back then, this wasn't even the simulator. This was back then in Gen 4. Then there wasn't the simulator before Showdown. There was the simulator before the simulator that was before Showdown. It was called Shoddy Battle, and it did not have a replay function. It only had text logs. If you wanted to watch the replay, so to speak, then someone had to record the battle live. Back then, most people were fine with reading a log. And there were no animations or anything, so it was a very dry experience in that sense. So that's why I recreated it. So that is how Ghost-type Curse has been used in competitive Pokemon to grand success by the ladder and tournament-dominating IPL. One of my idols. And yeah, so I hope this has been informative for you. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time.